What's up, everybody? It is Kellen here from Start Your Systems, and welcome to another MX Simulator official track gameplay, round number 4 of Supercross from Phoenix. That's how far behind on these dang videos I am. I think it's gall darn Houston still. No, this is Phoenix, although the dirt would lead you to believe otherwise. The MXS EMF track crew, for I suppose lighting purposes, darkened the dirt really harshly this week, which obviously real life Houston doesn't have. Real life Phoenix doesn't have dirt this dark. It's usually like more of a light clay base, so that's a little kind of a bit of a bummer, but they did it so that you can see a road better, and I don't know how much that really helped or didn't help. I guess we might see in this video because I have a road on 22. And yes, those of you who are asking, I will do a tutorial, a separate video entirely than one I've already done, about how to get a road to work properly in Sim, because it's really not terribly hard. You just kind of have to know how to get around your computer a little bit, I would say. But yeah, so this is Phoenix. This is the track that is going to be raced this weekend. In Sim, I think it was pretty well built. For racing, it seemed to work pretty well because there were multiple lines in just about every rhythm section that you could take. And as one-lined as I thought this first section was going to get, it actually stayed pretty good. And everybody seemed to be doing this line right here, which is kind of strange to me because I thought more guys would try to go triple in and then around the corner in some 4-3-3-4 sequence, but everybody ended up doing that check-up little double thing, and then they would go on-off, triple single. Then over here is pretty standard in the race. These guys were able to quad right here, but if you didn't quad, you could also triple double, which I'm doing terribly. Triple double to the inside, triple to the outside. It just opened up a lot of options. So in that aspect, I think the MXS EMF track crew did a pretty good job building the variance in the rhythm lanes. I think they could have actually built the lanes themselves a little bit better because I feel like the jumps and everything, they ended up being kind of a little bit too pointy. Like they could roll them out a little bit more. The transitions were all right, but just in general, like kind of smoothing everything out a little bit. I know it'd make big lines a little bit more doable, but just my only hitch. Otherwise, it's a good track, and that's my spiel about this track. I'm going to talk about real life stuff because this is what I usually do in these videos, and that's why I feel like some of you watch these videos in the first place. I haven't really had a good commentary video on the real life haps since... Did I even do a Houston video? Yeah, I did. So it's been since before Houston that I talked about real life stuff, and obviously a lot has happened since then. We actually had Houston and then the Triple Crown last week. And boy, oh boy, this is maybe going to be one of the weirdest Supercross championships I've ever seen, because, I mean, he could do it, but I just don't feel like Jason Anderson is going to go on this like tear of win podium back and forth like is the usual for like all champions that run away with it and win. You know, Anderson's only won one of the 3 rounds technically this year, so it's not like he's gonna just break away and do his own business. You know, he's not invincible when it comes to race winning speed. He's fast. I think he can click off several wins, sure, but I don't think he's gonna win like 7-8 races, which is usually what the champion does, although Dungey proved that to be false last year. So that leaves the door open for guys like Tomac, who are majorly down in the championship, or even, you know, someone like Roxon, who's lost a lot of ground, or really just about anybody else. Like even if Marvin comes back healthy later, or even sooner, but at some point in the season, if he gets healthy again, he's already so far down in the championship that like it's going to be pretty hard to catch Anderson. All this talk about the largest points margin someone's ever come back from and won in Supercross history is 27, which I believe was the year that Damon Bradshaw coughed it up to Jeff Stanton. But I don't know. It just seems like I don't really necessarily see Anderson just like winning this thing out straight up from here. Can he do it? Sure. Yeah, if he does it, I'm not going to be like completely shocked. But I feel like this championship's going to swing a little bit differently in the regards that like Tomac and Roxon maybe and Muscan and some of these other guys might start going on a tear and start kind of chewing away at Anderson's points lead a little bit. And given that he's only ever been in one professional championship scenario, as opposed to all the guys that he would be, battling for this championship, like Barsha's won 2 Supercross titles in the 250 class. Anderson's only won 1. Roxon has won 2 450 outdoor titles, a 250 West title, a world title. Muscan's won a 250 Supercross title and 2 world championships. And then obviously we know Tomac has his 250 Supercross titles, or 1 title, and 250 outdoor title and 450 outdoor title. So like Anderson has the least like track record of being like a straight up champion, as opposed to all these other guys that maybe could catch him down the run as the season goes on. But like it's almost too early to even be talking about this. The only real reason I feel like it's worth talking about is because Anderson is that guy that like you don't think is gonna just like, yep, foregone conclusion, he's this far out in front. I think he has a I want to say it's in the area of like a 13 to 15 point lead on Roxon and Barsha already. Or actually, no, it's 12 points over Seeley, but like Barsha and Roxon, yeah, they're a little bit farther back. And I love Seeley, but I just don't think he's quite like championship level yet. Like maybe he can get there as the season goes on, but he's just had too many inconsistencies to start the season, methinks. So if you look at it from like who's been good and who has a championship record and who could catch him, like the next closest guys are Roxon and Barsha, and Roxon hasn't looked, sharp as the old thumbtack in the drawer. Anaheim 2 is kind of a round to forget for him. Obviously, the Anaheim 2 demons from last year, where he broke his arm severely, maybe kind of reared its face a little bit, and that might have been kind of taking him off the top of his game a little bit, but I don't think we can read too deep into that. I think he just got bad starts, wasn't comfortable on the track. I mean, the one time he got a good start, he stayed in 4th. Other than that, he had mediocre starts, went backwards a couple times. Like, it just didn't look like a good week for Roxon. So, I think he needs to bounce back this week. I don't think it's necessarily, like, crucial that he bounces back this week because, again, I think long run, the fact that he's even kind of in it still is like a good sign, because I really don't feel like it's out of the question that someone like Tomac, as far down as he is, could come back, make a run, and at least get within like discussion range of winning this title. Not like, yep, he's gonna come back and win this title, like he's got the speed, that's just gonna happen. No, I think that like, I think he could definitely pull it down to like within like into the teens points wise and make it interesting, so that like Anderson or whoever's the points leader at that point has one bad race, suddenly Tomac's like thrust into a championship lead or winning scenario late in the season. Totally think that could happen, but there's a lot of ifs, ands, and buts in there. So looking at it where we're sitting, Anderson's got the catbird seat, he looks good, and like I said, the next closest guys to him, Roxon and Barsha, I think are kind of on like this little uphill battle where they're not the same pace as Anderson right now. They're not the same fitness level, I don't think. They're uncomfortable, but in saying that too, I do feel like watching Anderson ride lately has made me like a tiny bit nervous, because I just feel like he's pushing the envelope so hard when he's riding that like there's just at some point it's gonna come unraveled. I can't believe he hasn't had like a gigantic crash yet, because he's always like on the edge and searching for like a smooth line on the track by using so much animation of his body, and like I just can't believe it hasn't gone south yet. But I'm concerned that there's going to be one of these races that he has a big or bad enough get off that maybe he doesn't finish the race and he could still come back the next week, but then suddenly that championship lead that he has is gone and he's searching for gaining points, just like Muscan is, for example. If you give Anderson one DNF, Marvin Muscan is within about 15 points of him. Like that's how quickly it could change. So I don't think it's a foregone conclusion Anderson's running away with the title. That's kind of just my bottom line of this whole rant. Obviously, Anaheim's sake, it meant, like the return of Tomac. He's back. He looks good. Marvin tried to race with that dislocated shoulder, but I don't think it was quite there yet. I think as opposed to it being the end-all, discussion for Roxon and how well he has to do at Phoenix. I think if Muscan is not like good by this round, that it's probably not the worst idea for KTM to just like shut it down and say like, look, if you can't even finish the 20+1 lap main event after 2 weeks of shoulder rehabilitation and stuff like that, maybe we should look into it. Maybe you need surgery. Let's at least get you healthy for outdoors. Because in Tomac's case, there's all the speculation that, yeah, maybe he had a concussion, maybe he hit his head, but the bottom line is he was diagnosed with a shoulder contusion, and a contusion is not like, you're not going to require surgery. Even like the highest grade contusion you can get isn't going to be surgery worthy. It's just like a bone bruise, so it's just going to take time to heal. A dislocated shoulder could be a myriad of torn ligaments or muscles that aren't healing correctly, or, I mean, he obviously popped his shoulder out of socket, so there could be a whole number of wrong things going on in there that, if it doesn't heal in the right amount of time that's a normal dislocated shoulder heal time, then they have to be thinking maybe they need to go in and do a little bit of, some work in there. So I think if Muscan doesn't have a good weekend, it might be the end of his season. But if he does have a decent weekend, which I don't think he will, but if he does, I really think that kind of opens the door up for like, he can get back on a roll and start maybe clicking off some wins. Obviously Tomac will be in there. Like just imagine the scenario where Anderson is suddenly third or fourth best guy, for a couple weekends in a row. Let's just say he goes like 3-4-3 and Tomac wins out. Those are huge swings in points. That's be 5. If he goes 4-3-4, for example, and Tomac wins out those weeks, that'd be a total of 19 points swing in 3 rounds. And that's not like unfathomable, like I said. Like, yes, Anderson's looked good to start the season. Has he ever carried that momentum as they went back east? No. He's a West Supercross champion. He grew up racing on the West Coast. He doesn't seem to look very comfortable when the track gets deep, gnarly, and ruddy, which most East Coast tracks are going to do. So I'm not feeling like I'm like terribly off the mark by saying it's a potential that Anderson doesn't have that good of a season continue as we head east. But, we're still a few rounds from that, so he has time to kind of try to extend his points lead and get to a comfortable margin where he can afford to have some bad rounds east and it not be a problem. Just pure speculation on my point. There could be a whole different myriad of things that happen. I know Anderson trains in Florida now, and that, yeah, he trains in the sand and he's used to ruts and stuff there, but I just feel like a track like a St. Louis, an Indy, hell, anything up north, like even they go to Foxborough late in the season, stuff like that, I just don't feel like is Anderson's comfort zone. Having to ride cautiously to go fast, it's just never really been something that I feel like he's been good at. So just picking apart the chinks in the Anderson program, really, because other than that, I think he's been fantastic this year. He's rode really well. He's been pretty much the fastest guy on the track in most of the main events at some point. Anaheim 1, I think, if he had started with Tomac, it would have been a little bit of a different story. Maybe Tomac wouldn't have crashed because he was too busy dealing with, is Anderson going to go inside or outside? I'm not going to tiptoe in my Jordans over this section and go over the bars, but Anderson has been a little bit off the marks with starts this year, and that's kind of hurt him. So, but 250 class-wise, I don't know. It's freaking anybody's race in that class. Yes, Savachi looks good, but he always seems to ride like a roller coaster of doing good and doing bad and stuff like that. And AC, I can't believe he rode after basically being concussed. McElrath is like maybe the fastest guy in that class that's going to have the toughest time making it work, because he's like, he'll get a good start and he'll run up front and be fine, or he'll get a crappy start and take a little bit too long to get through the field. Whereas these other guys, I feel like Plessinger, for example, when he started in 12th at Houston, he was into 4th or 5th by like the 5th lap of the race. Like, that's just not something I've ever seen McElrath like accomplish. So I think that would be his kind of weak suit, if you will. But I still think he is a championship contender, as I do Plessinger, who had a terrible Anaheim 2. He got bad starts. The format didn't help him. Obviously, we're going back to the normal format this weekend, and You know, I think it's going to be a little bit more business as usual for Plessinger. He seems to do pretty well on these clay-based tracks. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, it's like AC, Plessinger, McElrath. I think that's kind of the championship contenders in a nutshell, really. Yeah, I don't think it's going to expand more than that. I think everybody else is kind of like the number 2 guys, either on the team or in general. But man, what in the heck is going on with Justin Hill? I got into like a Twitter discussion, I would call it, but I think that these kids took it more as an argument, where at Houston, I felt like Hill didn't look the same that he did at Anaheim, like just uncomfortable, didn't gel with the track. I don't know what it was, but at the time I noted that maybe he looked like he was riding hurt because he's riding really stiff, uncomfortable, etc. And you know, these people came back and said, nope, only the bike, purely the bike. The bike's crap, bike's garbage, it's just the bike. You're an idiot for thinking it's anything but the bike because that bike is trash. And I was just like, you know, whatever. You can have your opinions, I'll have mine. And I felt like Anaheim 2 just further proved my opinions that like something is going on with Hill, not the bike, because if that's the case, then if you put Phil Nicoletti on a PC Cowie, apparently he'll win races and be a championship contender, which, you know, maybe that's not terribly far off the mark. But Nicoletti beat Hill this past week, and they're on the same bike. So, like, you know, it's just, it seems like, I don't know, maybe it's a mental thing almost, like where Hill, you know, he starts kind of falling off the mark a little bit and then falls into like I can't win because I'm not riding well anyway and the bike isn't good, and like he just kind of builds himself into a hole a little bit. That'd be what it seems like is going on now. But I mean, yes, the Suzuki isn't perfect. I'm not saying that it's the best bike out there and he should be just as good as he was on Cowie. Definitely not saying that. I think the only reason he's at JGR is because there's a guaranteed 450 ride, and you're just going to see him have to struggle on a 250 Suzuki. But I think that there's just a little bit more to what's going on with Hill than the bike sucks. I think he's just not either mentally in it or his fitness is down, which I don't think is true. I think his fitness has always been pretty good. Or maybe he is nursing a small injury. It's not unfathomable, you know? So either way, whatever's going on with him, it's not good, because it doesn't look good on your resume to win the championship and then come back next year against pretty much the same field of guys. Obviously, the PC Cowie guys that are racing this year weren't there last year, but it's almost the same field besides those guys, and pretty much be a non-factor. So I hope he figures it out, because I like Hill. He's a pretty likable kid. Tremendous style on the bike, so can't go wrong there, but it just doesn't seem like it's working out too well, and I hope for his sake that doesn't mean that he doesn't get to take that JGR 450 ride like supposedly he took the contract for in the first place. But yeah, I mean, I guess we'll watch out this weekend for what's going to happen. I think this race is going to be kind of a big shakeup again, because it's back in not a baseball stadium, another football stadium. It's a long track, and unlike the Houston track, which broke down miserably, I think Phoenix is going to hold up and actually end up getting kind of blue grooved and really hard packed. That's just kind of typical Phoenix anyways. So the dirt will be different. The track is obviously different than what these guys have kind of been raced on for these first couple rounds. I think it'll be kind of a telling point of like who's here to play and stay and all this, and who's outside looking in as we kind of move into the middle part of the 250 West campaign. But that's it for another little official track gameplay here on SYS. This is the Phoenix track, not Houston, the Phoenix track. And yeah, download it in the description below. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, please go ahead and like and subscribe to the channel, of course. But if you guys want to comment on all this nonsense that I'm talking, hit us up in the comment section below. I'm not saying my comments are perfect. I'm just offering my opinions on what's happening. You guys are happy to have any different viewpoint you're gonna have or probably will have or whatever. But I'd love to bench race with you about it and why you feel that way or why you don't feel that way or whatever. So comment section, let us know what's going on. Otherwise, I hope you guys have a fantastic day, and I'll see you guys in the next video. So long for now.